Thanks for joining us here today. I'm Gabe Garish, owner of Backwoods Pursuit, and in today's video, I'm going to show you how I built my DIY bow draw board. So if you are looking at building a DIY bow draw board, that's what I'm going to show you here today. Stick around for that. As always, we really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button for us and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Got a ton of other gear reviews over on the website backwoodspursuit.com. Go check that out. Let's get into how to build a bow draw board. All right, to get started, the materials you're going to need to build a draw board is a 2x6, and this is about 5 feet long. You can go a little longer or a little shorter. It's always better to have it a little bit longer because you can always cut it down if you need to. So start with a 2x6, 5 to 5.5 feet long. On this end, you've got, what I've got here is a half-inch steel pipe with a steel flange. And then a real cheap, I think it's just from Harbor Freight or whatnot, but a yardstick ruler here. That way we can help measure our draw length. And then on this end, I've got a boat winch. And this is, again, is a fairly inexpensive build job altogether. The boat winch is not that expensive either. And then just a couple screws. So I'm going to go over how I put this together for you. One thing I did want to mention, obviously, whenever you're building your own equipment here to work on a bow, you do so at your own risk. This is just what I built and it's worked for me, but build at your own risk and work on your bow at your own risk as always. All right, to get started, down here on the end where you hook the bow on, grab your half-inch steel pipe here and the steel flange and thread that in all the way like I've done there. Make sure it is threaded all the way down there. You don't want this to accidentally come out or screw out. You can even put some Loctite down in there if you wanted to. You shouldn't need to, but you certainly can for extra safety measures. You want to make sure this is as safe as possible. I went ahead and pre-drilled that already, and then you'll notice here on the flange that it is tapered, so you want to use a screw that is also tapered so it mates up really nice with that. So go ahead and pre-drill that, and being that this is a 2x4, about 1.5 inch screw works really well. That way you get as much grab on the screw to make that just as safe as possible. So then we'll go ahead and screw that in all the way there and go around and do that to all of them and make sure that they are nice and tight. You don't want this coming out. All right, moving down to this end of the draw board where we're going to put the winch. This is a boat winch. You can get a trailer winch or whatnot. I'll put a link in the description to everything I use here so you can get yourself set up that way. But this one I think is way overkill, but I'd rather be on the overkill side than not. So basically what we did here, you can kind of see I left a little bit of extra room out here, so if I wanted to relocate this farther out to make the draw length or work on a draw length that is extra long, I could. My draw length is 30 inches, so this works fine for me having it right here. But if you're going, depending on what you're going to be attaching to the end of this, may affect how you or where you want to set this up. I'll show you that here in a minute. So now to get to the screws on this particular model, they are down here, and then there's some more down in there. So to get to those, you're going to have to go ahead and take all this strap portion out so that you can get your screwdriver down in there, your drill, and get that all taken care of. So I already did that so that keep this video as short as possible. But once you get that all set up, you're ready to get your tape measure set up so you can measure your draw length. Next, we're going to install the steel ruler here so we can measure our draw length while we're tuning our bow. That's actually really useful to make sure that things are in spec as we're going through the tuning process. So earlier I had mentioned we want to install this flange or this half-inch pipe here at least 1 3/4 inches off of the edge, and the reason for that is when this comes into play here when you're installing the ruler. The edge of this is where the throat of our grip is going to be, or in this case on my bow here, right here on the throat of the grip. So when our hand is in right there, the deepest part of the grip is where we're measuring from. Now we need to take that measurement, which is the same here, of course, as right on the edge of this half-inch pipe, and we're going to add 1.75 inches to that as far as when we're attaching this ruler. So what that looks like here, of course, is we've got that. You can see the throat or the deepest part of our grip is the same as the edge of your your half-inch steel pipe here. So when we are going and putting this ruler here on the draw board, we want to line this up at 1.75 inches right there, and that's where you're going to attach this. Again, a good idea to go ahead and pre-drill that, and then go ahead and attach that right there. We'll move to the other end now. Moving down to this end, and again, on both of these I'm putting a washer here just to make sure that stays down the way that I want it to. Moving over here to the middle, we'll finish it off by putting one right in the middle. And it doesn't have to be super tight or anything, but that just makes sure that stays nice and flush and it doesn't come up on you. Next up, I like to use a bow scale with my draw board here. It gives me a nice accurate reading of my draw weight, and again, it helps in tuning. The other thing it does is it allows us to eliminate the torque or the twist that you get in this strap here. So if you can imagine us attaching this to the bowstring, we would be twisting it like that. And so of course when you get all the way on that end of the draw board, it's not a big deal, but as you get closer to this, it creates more of a tendency to want to twist. So if we go ahead and attach our scale here to this, that eliminates that twist. Go ahead and do that, and then on this end we use that hook that comes with this scale here, and so we have a nice direct pull and you eliminate any twist there. Now this is the October Mountain Products Pro Scale. I'd highly recommend not skimping on the scale or skimping on any of the components here just for safety issues. This I think is a 500-pound scale if I remember correctly. It's again way overkill, but again I would much rather be on that side of things than the other, so I like having that extra peace of mind when I'm working on my bow like this. One other tip here on the side where we have the steel pipe is I went ahead and wrapped this with some electrical tape. You could wrap it in something that's even softer than that if you wanted to make sure you're protecting the handle and the riser of your bow. You want to mar that up if you don't have to. Another thing I did here on the underneath side of this to help it from sliding around and just not mar up the workbench any more than it has to is put some of this non-slip rug tape on the underneath side here. It just is real sticky and helps it from sliding around accidentally. On that note, you do want to do one of a couple things. You could take some long screws right here and drill a hole. I've done that in the past. Just drill that right down into your workbench. You certainly can do that, and that kind of makes it more permanent, obviously, and it is the safest that way as far as making sure it's not going to go anywhere. Another option here that is a really good option, something that I'd use if I'm just going to be using it real quick, is I go ahead and grab one of these clamps, basically, and these are readily available here. So I'll go ahead and use two of them as ideal, but one works as well. Go ahead and just clamp this down to the workbench and clamp that down. Make sure you don't want this thing moving around on you when you're in the middle of drawing your bow. That could be catastrophic for your bow and or you. So make sure you're safe that way. Make sure this is clamped down in at least one spot, preferably two, or screwed directly to your bow, your bench. All right, let's give this a test run. Got the bow on here, got my hand on it, of course. Want to make sure it doesn't get away from us. I got the scale here hooked to the winch, and then I got the hook of the scale here right where I knocked the arrow. Got soft knocks in there and the D-loop. That keeps the hook from sliding up and down the string, but I still want to have my hand here on the riser while I'm doing this. So you go ahead and crank that back slowly, and that makes sure you have a good firm grip on everything, and you'll be able to really test your draw weight really well that way. And then with this, you can go ahead and test not only your draw weight, but the draw length as well. So that's how I built my DIY bow draw board. Drop any questions or comments down there in the comment section, and we'll help if we can answer any questions we've got for you. Thanks for watching here today. We'll see you next time.